welcoming everyone from all walks of life. If you're looking for even more fantastic debates, please do not forget to like, follow, or subscribe, including tonight's debate on Did God Create the Universe? With our debaters, TJump and Ronny Cameron, here to help us find out. And if you enjoy what either of them have to say, our guest links are in the description below. Though with that, I am going to hand it over to Ronny for their up to 12-minute opening statement. The floor is all yours.
All right, thanks, Amy. Okay, so I have 5 arguments for why I believe God created the universe. 3 main arguments. First, science can't explain how something comes from nothing. This is a classic one. Obviously, TJump is familiar with this. The ultimate origins of the universe is basically beyond scientific explanation. Therefore, a supernatural explanation is the only plausible one. The existence of God explains why there is a universe instead of absolute nothingness. This is my second main argument. Science cannot explain a reason for why there ought to be a universe instead of nothingness. Non-existence continuing to not exist is an easy concept to imagine, right? Eternal nothingness and nothing ever happening. But nothing, absolute nothing, creating something is unimaginable, not only because it's impossible, but because there is no reason for why it should happen. However, if God exists, it's then reasonable and easy to imagine him creating things as opposed to just doing nothing. There is no reason for absolute nothingness to do anything, but there's plenty of reasons for why God would wish to make something happen. My third argument is this: science can't explain the fine-tuning of the fundamental properties of the universe, another classic one, without resorting to multiverse theory. So multiverse theory is illogical. It just doesn't make sense philosophically and intuitively, and it's just a really bad argument. So without using multiverse theory, we can't get around the fine-tuning of the universe. And then my 2 second arguments are these. Why does math exist? It's kind of a fun one. And why is there consciousness? Why did the universe create consciousness? Life can exist without consciousness. Things can work in a mechanistic way, and we don't really need consciousness. Now, if there is a God, it's easy to believe why. It's easy to see why there would be consciousness. But without God, we actually don't know why consciousness exists in the first place. So that's my opening. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you so very much, Ronny. And with that, we are going to hand it over to TJump for his up to 12-minute opening statement. The floor is all yours.
Anything the supernatural can explain, the unknown natural can also explain. So any made-up explanation for God having some motivation to do X, if that counts as an explanation, then we can make up any explanation we want, and it's equivalently justified. So simply saying that God has some nature where he has some desire to do X, if you count that as whatever you think is required for a justification, we can say that there's some nature to the quantum particle, the quantum field that is necessary, and its nature determines it to do X. Problem solved. So simply saying that I can imagine God has some desire isn't an explanation. Nobody counts that as an explanation in science. It's why nobody in science appeals to a God for anything in physics ever at all, no matter what, because it's not a legitimate explanation. If you want a legitimate explanation of, say, fine-tuning or the origin of the universe, you need to explain the specific questions asked in the field of physics. What is the perturbation density of space-time? Why the speed of light? Why the difference between the matter and antimatter particles? Why is the gravitational waves the way they are? There's lots of specific questions you need answered. And if you have a theory of everything, it needs to answer those questions. Otherwise, it's literally not a theory of everything. So simply saying God done it is not a theory of everything. The multiverse is a theory of everything because it explains answers to each of those physics questions. So when he says the multiverse is illogical, like, no, literally, the multiverse is a simpler hypothesis than an infinitely powerful God that could create infinitely many multiverses. So if you say the multiverse is ridiculous, that's like saying a apple is ridiculous, but the tree that created the apple, no, that's not. That's fine. That's totally rational. Makes zero sense there. All the arguments he presented are easily debunked. Something from nothing. Nobody says something came from nothing. He believes God existed and never didn't exist. We believe the quantum field existed and never didn't exist. There was never a nothing. Nobody thinks there was actually a philosophical nothing at any point ever. It's not a thing in science. The hypothetical explanation that God done it is equivalent to the hypothetical explanation there is a necessary quantum field. That's the explanation. Problem solved. No, there was never a nothing. Okay. Out. So there ought to be a universe. I don't know. I don't understand the second point whatsoever. Why there ought to be. I don't understand what he's trying to explain there. Like there are no oughts. There's no ought. It is. There's not an ought. Like why does God ought to be the way God is? It's just the way it is. I imagine. Fine tuning is very easy to debunk. Any fine tuning argument is reflexively applies to a God. The universe itself has many, many constants, and if you change them, then life would not exist. I agree. But for each possible variation of the way the universe could be, there's a possible variation God could be where he could want that particular universe. So if there's a universe of nothing but black holes, God could want that. If there's a universe of nothing but puppies, God could want that. And so there's equally as many variations of God as there are variations of the universe. And so if you think the number of variation demands an explanation for a universe, then they also demand an explanation for a God. So the fine tuning would apply to both. And if your solution is just, well, God's necessary, we can again just say, well, the laws of physics, the way they are necessary due to some underlying law of physics. He's simply wrong when he says this can't be explained without the multiverse. There are dozens of different theories that explain it that are not the multiverse. One could just be there is an underlying law that interdetermines all the forces and there's only one universe. Problem solved. You don't need the multiverse for that. Why math? Math is a language made up by humans. It's English. It's like English. It's just a language we made up to describe the way things are. The fact that things have a way that they are doesn't need an explanation from a mind. Why consciousness? Evolution explains consciousness. Evolution is the best explanation of consciousness, which is why materialism and naturalism are the consensus in every single field of brain studies: neurology, psychology, cognitive science, philosophy, psychology, everything. It's all materialism. There's not even none of them have a consensus outside of that because it's the only one that makes testable predictions. So all of his arguments are very easy to explain. They're better explained under naturalism. Therefore, no, there's no evidence that the universe was created by God.
Woo-hoo. Thank you so very much, TJump, for your opening statement. And with that, we are going to move into 50 minutes to an hour of open conversation. Gentlemen, the floor is all yours.
Well, first,
could you clarify the second one first? Because I don't understand what you mean by the second one. Ought to be a universe.
The reason for why the universe exists. So there's how does the universe exist, but there's also why does the universe exist. So Richard Dawkins once famously said that why questions are silly. They're childish questions, but we can think of several situations right off the top of our head in which why questions are very important. Say, for instance, in the criminal justice system, motive. Why did you do this? Why did the suspect?
To go back to the universe thing, why does it need a why answer? I don't know. I'm not following.
Why questions are important. Okay, so when we look at, say, for instance, the animal kingdom, we don't just ask how an animal does something, we ask why an animal does something. Okay, whether it's human motivation or animal behavior, why questions are very important. So to just dismiss them as being nonsensical, well, I disagree. And I think at a fundamental level, we can ask.
So,
okay, yeah, you're just asking for clarification.
Yeah. So I'm saying, why do we need to answer the why question? Because normally if you're saying there's a question, like a phenomenon that we can't explain and we wanted to understand why or how it happened, there must be some evidence that that thing exists or something. So like to say, why is the universe existing? You would need to have some evidence it like didn't not exist at some point or did not exist at some point. We don't have any evidence of that. So like there could just be a quantum field that didn't not exist, never not existed. So you don't need to ask why does it exist? It's a necessarily existing object.
From a conceptual standpoint, we could think of non-existence. We could think of there being no universe. And that doesn't, if there's no God, it wouldn't be so surprising, right? Why would nothing ever create something? We're going to get into the whole,
how we can imagine there being a not universe.
God, put simply, God explains why there is a universe. Without God, there is no explanation for why there is a universe.
Before that, you said we could imagine that there's nothingness or something.
Well, I want to put it more simply. So just go with my last statement. Okay. God explains why, if God exists, that's an explanation for why there's a universe. But without God, there literally is no explanation for why there is a universe.
Okay, so if you're saying that if there is a thing that created the universe and the thing is the explanation of the universe, I can say the quantum field created the universe. Therefore, the quantum field is the explanation. And I
The
could ask the
quantum
same
field
question.
doesn't explain why.
Yes, it does. The quantum field's nature does explain why. Or
It would explain the how.
Why does God exist?
It could possibly explain the how, but how and why are two different things.
Why does God
How did you
exist?
kill somebody? Why did you kill somebody?
Why
How
does
did
God
the lion attack?
Stop. Why does God exist?
No. I let you go on for your little bits.
No.
You should let me go on
not
too.
addressing the point. Why does God exist?
Okay, but that's not what I'm saying. Why is there a universe? And we're discussing whether or not God created the universe. So God explains, if God exists, that explains why there's a universe.
Okay,
if there is no God, science cannot, it doesn't even attempt to answer the question of why there's a universe.
Why does God exist? How would you answer that question?
Well, you're shifting gears, you're pivoting.
No, it's called mirroring. So
well, first you were asking for clarification, and now we're just steamheading
this
right
is
into it.
literally clarification. This is clarifying. Like my original question was, why do you think there is a need for an answer to the why question? Right.
I started explaining that originally with
what you're saying makes no sense. So
you're cutting me off again.
Because what you're saying makes sense. So in order to explain it, answer the question, why does God exist? Now, if you answer that question, that will help clarify why we need the answer to the why question.
Okay, so originally this is what I'm saying. If God exists, that explains why there is a universe. Without God, there is no explanation. If you want to move to why God exists, we can do that. We can talk about that. But right now I'm focusing on why is there a universe, and it's fine. Maybe science doesn't have an explanation. Maybe it doesn't care about answering why, and that's perfectly fine. There are many scientists who say we don't care about why there's a universe.
Okay, focus on what I'm actually saying. Don't bring up irrelevant
things. And I'm
telling you, you're not. No, you have.
But what you're doing is trying to reframe. Okay.
So again, my point here is that I think the universe does not need a why answer. It's a stupid question. It's irrelevant.
Fair enough.
Like when I ask the question, why does God exist? You're going to give some answer like because he's necessary or something. And I'm just going to give the exact same answer for the universe. So any answer you think applies to why the universe exists is also going to apply to God. Why does God exist?
Can I explain why it's important?
Yeah.
To ask the why question?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I want to say
existential reasons and spiritual reasons.
Okay,
many people
wait for me to finish
what's
first.
the point.
Okay,
fine, finish. But
the
I'll
point
go
of
right
my
back
argument
into
here
that.
is the argument that the universe needs an answer to the why question. Any justification you give is going to be paralleled one for one for any God explanation why God needs to have an answer to the why
Firstly,
question.
I didn't say that the universe necessarily needs to have one, but with the existence of God comes an explanation for the universe. Without God, there is no explanation for why the universe is. I can repeat that many times. I'm sure the audience can grasp that. But what I want you to understand here, TJ, is that most scientists would agree that science does not care to answer the question, why does the universe exist? It only cares to answer how questions regarding the origins.
I don't care about anything any other scientists have to say. So
well, you even said so yourself. You don't care about the why, and that's fine. But many people do, and God satisfies that answer.
For the universe, I don't care about any other scientists. Don't bring up any other scientists. It's just a waste of time. Why does God exist?
Okay, so we're going to shift to why does God exist?
The same point.
Even though the conversation is, did
just
God
answer the
create
question.
universe?
Stop evading. Answer the question.
Well, I don't feel that.
I'll explain to you why. I'll explain to you why it matters in like 5 seconds.
I know where you're going to go with it, and so you might as well just go there right now, because the topic of the debate is not why or how does God exist.
Evading?
It's did God create the universe? Why are you evading?
Why does God exist?
Why does God exist? That's a hard question to answer. I would say that God would be the one thing that would be beyond explanation in all forms. The why, the how, the where, the when. God, by definition, is capable of being beyond all of that, but science is not. Science is within the confines
wait.
of
I
cause
didn't
and
ask about
effect.
science. I don't care about science here. So your answer was...
I know you don't care about science here.
No, I'm more qualified than you in this. So you said that it needs an answer to the why question.
No, I didn't.
The universe needs an answer to the why.
It doesn't need one. I'm saying that with the existence of God, it satisfies the why. Some people might not care about the why, like you, and that's fine. But for the people that do care about the why,
not following. So
TJ, I follow you perfectly fine. It doesn't matter how hard you grab your nose or squint.
Stop interrupting.
It's a really
bad
debate tactic,
to the argument. So you said that there's some benefit to getting an answer to the why question. Whether it needs it or not, you think that there's some benefit. to having an answer to the why question for the universe? That
saying
adds something.
With the existence of God comes an explanation for the why, but without God, there is no explanation for the why. We can move on.
Which makes it better, right? Which makes your hypothesis better because it has this, right?
You're asserting that. I'm not making any of those claims. I'm just simply saying that God is the only thing that could possibly explain the why. And for those who care about the why, they probably will end up believing in God, or at least searching for some answers down a spiritual path. But science simply doesn't even bother to provide one.
So if it doesn't matter that there's an answer to the why question, that means it doesn't add any benefit to your hypothesis, right?
No, I'm saying that for those who do care about the why, it absolutely does. But for those who say, listen, I don't care about why there's universe, well, it's not really that strong of an argument.
So your argument is that if people think there's a why, then they would want to believe in a God or something like that?
I'm saying it's reasonable to ask the why question. Many people do ask the why question, and God is the only thing that could possibly give an explanation.
Well, no,
science can't.
It definitely can, but that's not the point here.
No,
so you're
it
saying
can't
that
give a why.
Yes, it can. Anyone can make up a why. Why making up a why
No,
is easy.
Why is different than how, and you're just going to use how arguments. You're not going to use why arguments.
I said anybody can make up a why. We can add
yeah,
why.
But they could be implausible or nonsensical.
Like your God hypothesis, I know. But so the question here is, why are you saying that you brought these up as arguments to indicate that God created the universe, right?
Yes.
And your first argument was because it answers the why question.
There is no reason for why a quantum field would create a universe, or why a quantum field would even exist. There could be a how explanation, but there is no why explanation.
I want to know why you think the ability to answer the why question counts as evidence that God created the universe.
Because for those people who care to ask that question, God could be the only possible explanation. For those who don't care to ask the question, then it's just going to be a Richard Dawkins explanation. I don't care about the why.
Why does the fact that people want an answer to the question equal that that is more plausibly true, or that the probability of the answer is true?
What I'm saying is, by definition, science can't give you an explanation, but God can.
I don't care about science. I don't care about science.
So this is why it's important.
The question was...
Are you pretending to be is just this obtuseness coming from you right now? Like, what's going on?
What you're saying is so stupid. I'm trying to baby step you through this. You made an argument. You're saying these 5 things are arguments. Now, an argument is something that increases the probability a proposition is true, right?
Yes.
So we want to know, is it more likely God created the universe versus did not God created the universe?
Something right. And when we pull back, okay, so you let me know when I can say something,
yes,
TJ.
Happy to. So your first argument was this is the second argument. There needs to be a why. And the answer to the why is the argument, which means it has to increase the probability that God is true. That's what makes it an argument, right?
I can talk now, right?
Yes. So what makes something an argument is that it increases the probability it's true, when you're saying that having an answer to the why question.
Yes, I'm going to say yes to that immediately, right? I'm giving you an honest answer. Now, can I explain the yes?
Well, I don't need an explanation. Well, actually, yes, yes.
Thank you for being for allotting me some time to explain that. That's awesome. Even though you don't need it, it's really cool of you.
Well, actually, I think I do need it here. So I think, because my next question is going to be, how is it the case that an answer to the why question increases the probability that one proposition is true?
Because if we look at the whole question of did God create the universe, we can look at things of how, we can look at the features of the universe, and we can ask the question why. Now, somebody might say, I don't care about the why, it's irrelevant to me, like Richard Dawkins and many other scientists. But for those out there who do care about the why, God is the only explanation. So let's say half the audience listening cares about the why. They will look at this segment and be like, yeah, you know what? It's true. God is the only possible thing that can give an explanation. They will realize, yeah, science, this quantum field, that's not really answering a why. So I hope you understand that, and maybe we can move on.
No, I didn't understand that at all. So how does the ability to answer the why question increase the probability a proposition is true? And then you said, because people care about the why question. Now, what people care about means nothing. It's zero evidence for anything what people care about.
Do you not forget what I originally said about why questions are important? Because they pop up in life all the time. So it's not, we shouldn't just disregard the why question. So let's say we're talking about whether or not somebody's guilty of a crime. And one side can explain the how, but the other side could also explain the why. Okay, one, the defense or the prosecution, whatever. The why adds to the whole argument. Now, motive alone isn't going to prove a case. That's why I said some people might not care so much about the why, but it is an argument. It is a point for the side that has motivation, that has a reason. So there's no motivation behind the quantum field or for whatever created the quantum field. There would just be mechanistic things happening. Motivation. But with God comes motivation, comes reason. I hope you can understand this.
How does that increase the probability of the proposition God created the universe?
Well, just like in a court of law, if one side has motive, that increases the probability that their side is true or their side is correct. No, it may not be insurmountable evidence or case closed,
it's
but
not
it
evidence.
is a point.
It's zero evidence. So like if we see somebody who was crushed by a rock and we say, well, why did the rock do this? And well, it was just gravity. There was no why. It just didn't happen. So asking the why question and saying, well, maybe Hitler decided to push the rock, therefore there's a why answer now, doesn't add any probability to the Hitler hypothesis. It adds zero. So simply adding a why answer doesn't add probability to the proposition.
Well, within the realms of motivation here and sticking with the whole criminal like justice system, if we have, say, two advocates, one is saying that, hey, I think this person is guilty of the crime. The other person is saying, I think this person is guilty of the crime. If advocate
I'm saying
A,
no person. So the option is person A and gravity.
You're not letting me finish. If there's no
because it's
motivation,
a false analogy. I don't care what there's so the comparison
you're
here is
constantly interrupting.
That's because what you're saying
really
is so insanely stupid. I'm trying to baby step you through this. It's not
TJ,
person A and person B.
TJ, I know. I understand
person A
the
and
point.
person B. No, you don't. If you understood
in a
the point, you'd address it.
It's a hypothetical.
No.
Okay, so of course there's no person A and person
question.
B.
Person A, rock. No person B. Does the fact that there is a why answer increase the probability person A pushed the rock?
I need you to let me speak for a little bit of time here because I need to explain this
answer the question
and why it makes sense. And you're just trying to corner me and ask these ridiculous questions to make it seem like what I'm saying doesn't make any sense. And it's really frustrating because
no.
It's not an honest. You keep doing that squinting thing. That's a sign in any debate.
It's a sign that what you're saying is so stupid.
You've done that to Daniel. You've done that to so many people. Stop this whole time. We could make
Amy, can you mute him or something? Because if he's not going to actually answer the question.
What I will say is, why don't we just answer Ronnie if you would like, and then maybe you ask a question and we'll just get kind of a better back and forth. Because
when somebody asks a question, can somebody have maybe like 30 seconds to a minute to respond?
Not if you don't answer the question. So I'm not going to give you 30 seconds to say bullshit and not answer the question. The question
is this all the time. I'm not going to give you 30 seconds. What do you mean?
So I will if it gets that bad, but right now it's just spicy, and so I'm just going to ask both of you to obey the Queen of Sound Bites, and besides that, whoever would like to ask the next question, or...
Yes, okay, so I'll try to explain this to you again because you're a dumbass. You made the claim, why statements increase the probability the proposition is true. That's what you said. That's why you said it, dumbass, which means you have to contrast two options, one with a why question or one why answer and one without a why answer. And you have to show that the why answer increases the probability over the one that has no why answer, right? This is basic fucking logic.
Yeah.
So if you have an example, like someone died from a rock falling on them, one possibility is that a bad guy pushed the rock. And now we have a why explanation.
Yes,
why?
You said this.
Because the guy pushed the rock. But maybe there was just an avalanche and the rock just fell. There was no why. And so your argument is that simply positing a hypothesis that has a why increases the probability that hypothesis is true. And I can prove that's false because I can give an alternative hypothesis that has no why, avalanche, and that hypothesis doesn't go down in probability just because you imagined Hitler did it. That's no evidence is provided there, which proves it does not provide evidence.
Okay, shut the fuck up and let me talk, all right? Because that's just like, honestly, is that even a question, man? Is that even a question? because it's so convoluted.
question-
It's like
yes, the
I'll
question-
give you a perfect example for why is a reasonable question to ask, and why
I don't care if it's a reasonable question.
Shut
why
up.
is it
And
evidence?
I'm
dumbass?
getting there,
The question-
TJump.
The
Shut
question
the
is,
hell
why
up.
is it
Seriously, shut
evidence?
up, man.
Dumbass.
Like, this is just so
Why is it
annoying.
evidence?
You just keep talking, and you
because you're
literally
a
don't give
dumbass.
me any time.
We're
You're a
gonna.
dumbass.
Even if I was, it still doesn't give you the right to act like that, and you should be smart enough to know that.
So with
I
that,
have to.
Ronnie, the floor is yours for a response back.
Thank you. Okay, so let's say there's two people that are suspected of a crime, person A and person B. With person A, we have reason for why that person may have committed the crime, and that's it. For person B, we have nothing. So all things are equal. The only thing difference is we have motivation for one, we don't have motivation for the other. This explains how a why question could increase the probability. If all we have to go on right now in a vacuum, which what we're trying to do with this whole why is the universe here, if one side has a reason, the other side doesn't, it makes it more likely. If TJump doesn't get that, I mean, I'm sorry, but you're the dumbass.
You absolute fucking moron. In the case of someone where we know where someone was killed by another person, then having someone with motive increases the probability. If we know someone died and we have no reason to think a person did it,
is there a universe?
It doesn't add
is
evidence,
there a universe?
you dumbass.
Yes, there's a universe. So that could basically be equivalent. Did somebody die? Now we're asking the question: who created the universe? I'm saying, well, we have a reason for why there's a universe. We
Holy
have
shit.
a
How are you
how,
so
which we
stupid?
can get into, but you're not even allowing us to get past this whole point of why.
Stupid. How are you so? So what you claim was that having a motive increases the evidence. So if we know someone was shot with a gun and by like another person, we know it was done by another person, and we see two people, one person has a motive, one person doesn't. Yes, that's evidence. If we have someone die of natural causes and some person has a motive to kill them, that's not evidence because they could die of natural fucking causes. The only way it counts as evidence is if we already know they were killed by a person, you moron. So it's begging the question to think that the why question is automatically evidence that the universe was created by a mind. Dumbass. The first thing you have to do is show it wasn't a natural process.
Okay, I'm perfectly fine to move beyond the why because we're just gonna end up repeating ourselves.
God, you're dumb. Okay.
I mean, it's really not a good indication that you're doing well in a debate when you're resorting to like.
If you don't understand why you got destroyed, I can't help you.
Like every 5 seconds, you dumb shit, interrupting. I mean, every single thing you're checking off the list here, man.
Instead,
it's pretty bad.
Pick another argument.
Let's go, Ronnie. Would you like to ask TJump a question?
No, I don't really have a question for him right now. I'd like to get onto the how something can get from nothing.
It can't. Problem solved.
Okay, so you say that the universe, or sorry, whatever created the universe just always existed. Do you think that's a scientific claim?
Do I think that sort of?
Do you think something can be without a cause?
Claim. Yes.
You do. You actually think something can exist without there being a reason or a cause for it.
So do you.
Let's not get into what created God, because I'll just say, God. I can use a supernatural explanation. You can't. Science doesn't allow it. The belief in God does. I'm staying consistent. You're not.
Wait. So you're saying God was caused by something supernatural?
I would say whatever, if God emerged at the moment that anything emerged, or if he is the creator of all that is, it obviously involves a supernatural explanation because science basically couldn't explain it. So God, by definition, is supernatural, and science cannot use a supernatural explanation.
So you're saying God came from nothing?
Hold on, shut up. If what you're saying is that something always existed and has no cause, that's not scientific. You're not being consistent.
It's philosophical and it is scientific, but
no, it's not, because science depends on some sort of cause and effect. And
if
you regress infinitely into the past, you're no longer being scientific or philosophically
your ignorance of
consistent.
Science doesn't matter here. So did God come into existence from nothing?
You're pivoting. We're talking about what created the universe,
this is
not
called
what
a
created
mirroring
God.
argument. This is a literal thing in philosophy.
That's a pivoting. It's a pivoting
not.
move by you, and you constantly do it whenever you're stuck with something that you cannot explain. You just say, "Well, I'm just going to bounce this back at you."
This is formal philosophy. You can't say it's a move of mine. It's literally formal.
The topic
philosophy.
of the debate is: did God create the universe, not what created God? So if you cannot explain what created the universe, if you don't have a satisfactory answer, you cannot just pivot back and push it at me and mirror at me.
The point is to say You're so stupid. You're going to give a dumbass answer, and I can just mirror the dumbass answer.
Dude, I really wish we were talking in person half this debate, eh? Because you would not say this things that you say to me.
Exactly the same thing.
TJump.
Yes, I would.
At least you would not do it while looking in my eye.
I would say the exact same thing you say.
No, you wouldn't be saying dumbass. You wouldn't be saying, if this is how you treat
people. You fucking moron. I have autism. I
love watching you go off the rails. I would gladly
look you in the eye, smack you upside the fucking head because you're a dumbass and tell you you're a fucking dumbass. I do it all the fucking time.
TJump, you're great, man. You're great.
Now shut the fuck up and get back to the evidence,
just a slice,
moron. This is a basic fact in philosophy. If you think you have a better answer to a question where there's two hypotheses, and I say, how do you answer that question? The way to prove that your answer is not fucking better, you fucking dumbass, is if it equally applies to the alternative hypothesis. So you're saying that hypothesis X has a better explanation of some phenomenon, and to do that, you're going to have to provide an answer, and to prove it's not a better answer, all I have to do is show that hypothesis Y can use the same fucking answer, you dumbass. This is basic fucking philosophy.
I know what you're doing, TJump. You're talking so far below me, it's hilarious. I completely get the point you're trying to make. No. I completely get what you're trying to say. But here's the problem. God, if we say God exists, therefore, would it be reasonable to assume that he could create a universe if God exists?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so we're not debating whether or not God exists, okay? We're talking about the creation of a universe. So you admit, if God exists, bam, that explains how the universe was created. So now what is your explanation regarding how science can explain the origins of the universe? You can't, because you're relying on a situation that either doesn't have, isn't congruent with cause and effect.
I'm saying I can.
Or you regress infinitely into the past.
No. I'm saying I can't explain
both of those. Okay, so explain to me how you believe the universe was created. I'm going to use the exact
same answer you use and explain it in the exact same way.
I'm allowed to use that answer and be consistent because God, by definition, is supernatural. I would say it's a supernatural explanation beyond science. You can't use that explanation.
I can say it's uber duper natural. Problem solved.
Okay, there's only two doors that hold the answer. Either science is true and there is no God. Yes, TJump. Either there is God or there is no God.
Exclusive to God. What the hell? This is so dumb. So
I'm trying to break down it so that we can both agree on one thing here. Do you agree that there's only two possibilities? Either God exists or he doesn't?
Sure.
Okay, and either God created the universe or he didn't?
Sure.
Okay, so those are the only two possibilities, ladies and gentlemen. Either God created. So what is a third possibility? God created the universe or he didn't? Please tell me a third
multiple gods. Something else could exist and created the universe. The universe could have come into existence from quantum fields, and God exists at the same time and didn't create the universe. Like there's lots of possibilities there.
Okay, so a combination of the two, you would say somehow God did and didn't create the universe. Whatever. If we want to break it down to just a simple understanding of what it is we're talking about, either God did it or he didn't. I'm not arguing whether multiple gods did it. You don't believe multiple gods did it. You believe it just happened. I believe God did it, just to put it simply, right?
Right.
We can agree on that. So
yes.
Here's the thing. If God exists, which I believe, he would be supernatural. So if I say the explanation is supernatural, I'm being consistent. Now, you don't believe, hold on, let me finish. You only believe in science. Science cannot answer the question
I don't only believe
without
in
using a supernatural explanation. Therefore, you can't be consistent. So, okay, give me your explanation for how the universe was created.
Uber duper supernatural. So all you've done is you've said
that's by definition you believe in God if you think it's supernatural.
No, you fucking moron. Saying that there's a new ontology called supernatural is something you've made up and pulled out of your ass with no evidence. Now I can make up a different new ontology, not the supernatural. It's a different thing. Ubernatural is not supernatural. They're just both beyond the natural. And ubernatural is a kind of material stuff, and the material stuff in the ubernatural created the universe. Problem solved. If what you think counts as an explanation is making up a bullshit new ontology with no evidence, we can do that too, moron.
What I'm doing is proving that there's nothing beyond door number one. So logically, the answer has to be behind door number two. Door number one is science. It has no explanation for how the universe could be. It literally doesn't. We can explore it. And by definition, it comes to a dead end. It either runs into the wall of cause and effect, or you're just simply saying that there's infinite regression into the past. Those are the only two things science can do, and it fails at both. Therefore, the only other explanation must be behind door number two. Even though I can't open that door and show you God, it's literally the only thing that could explain it. So please, again, TJump, explain to me how a universe can just create itself or come from nothing or just always be. while staying consistent with science.
You're so the possibilities are foundationalism, like it's a necessary being, infinite regress, where it's the eternal past thing, or cause itself through
Do you
quantum
think
physics.
infinite regression is possible
Yes,
logically?
every physicist does.
No, it's oh, that's so untrue. Every physicist does.
Yes.
It's quite the opposite.
No,
Infinite regression
dumbass.
that would mean that the past is literally creating itself as we speak.
No, that's circular. Oh my fucking god! Creating itself.
That's what it would mean.
Stop,
Infinite, idiot.
Dumbass,
If time is going infinite to the future, then it would have to be going infinite to the past. And both parts are creating themselves as time. Dude, all you keep doing is saying dumbass, squinting, grabbing your glasses.
You're a dumbass.
It's very annoying arguing
you fucking
with you.
dumbass.
I wish we had a moderator.
Stop, you fucking dumbass.
I will say we do want to go less ad hominem towards people on both sides. I'm enjoying the spice.
Stop. Can we stop? I need to address all the stupid shit he just said. So first thing, he said infinite regress is time creating itself. No, you fucking dumbass. That's called circular creation. There's 3 options in philosophy: infinite regression, circular reasoning, foundationalism. Those are the 3 possibilities. If time was creating itself, that would be circular, not infinite regress, you fucking moron. Infinite regress is that there's always been a thing. It hasn't creating itself. That's the consensus in
I would argue that the circular argument is illogical. Infinite regression is illogical.
I don't care if you think it's illogical.
No, I'm arguing it. I know you don't care, TJump.
No,
you say this all the time in debates in which you're losing. I don't care. Dumbass. This is
mute him. Let me finish. What I was objecting to was when you said infinite past is time creating itself. No, dumbass, that's a different one of the trilemma. It's not that one. Secondly, this is the consensus in physics. Literally every physicist thinks this. There is no logical paradox, no logical contradiction in an infinite regress. All of the models pretty much have an infinite regress with a few external options, which are all like foundationalism. Every physicist knows there's no logical contradiction there. William Lane Craig knows there's no logical contradiction there. He's admitted it on camera. Infinite regress does not entail a logical contradiction. Every philosopher knows this. You're a dumbass. So what's your argument against?
Am I allowed to speak now? Sorry, I thought I was muted there for a second because he said, "Hey, mute him."
I have not muted anyone. I just want to give another PSA. Keep spicy. We just want to give insults towards arguments, not people. But I'm enjoying the debate.
Okay, so with respect to infinite regression into the past, insofar as a universe being created, it's illogical because what we would have to assume is that the past is literally creating itself right now. So what does infinite mean? Okay, infinite means beyond measurement. It's basically the biggest thing possible, right? So if we were to say time is moving forward into potential infinite time, we would also have to assume that the past is doing the same. And since in order for time to move forward, we have things creating themselves. We have moments creating themselves. We have cause and effect. So we would also have to assume that some sort of cause and effect mechanism is working, but applying into the past, meaning that the origins of everything right now would be creating itself, and the origins of that would be creating itself, and the origins of that would be creating, and it just keeps going and going and going. And so we actually wouldn't have an ultimate beginning. We just have this nonsensical explanation of how something could just be eternally moving into the past, creating itself. That can't be. Time can move forward infinitely, yes, because there's an infinity yet to be explored. So we could say that the potential of time to move forward into infinity is infinite, but the potential of time to move into the past infinitely, that just doesn't make any sense.
Oh my God, that's so fucking stupid. So the past existing infinitely is not creating itself. It's not like the future, which is continually going forward and more of it is being created. B theory of time. This is one of the top 2 theories or top 3 theories of how time works, is that all time all exists concurrently. It's not creating itself. All of the infinite past is there. All of the infinite future is there. They're not creating themselves. They're there. They always existed. They're always there. You don't need it to be like every -1 second in the past, it then creates the -2 seconds. No, that's not how it works.
Can I ask you a question really quickly?
Please.
It's a quick. Do you believe right now there's a TJump who exists 5 minutes ago in 5 minutes in the past?
If that's how time works, yes.
Do you believe that's how time works?
I am agnostic on how time works.
Okay, so what's your position on the origins of the universe? Not what could be. How do you actually believe
quantum field?
Okay, so where did the quantum field come from?
It's necessary. It was never created.
Why is it necessary?
Why is it necessary?
And how is
it's
it
part
necessary?
of its nature. It's part of its nature.
Well, what gave it that property?
It's nothing gave it that property. It's necessary.
So there's no explanation for it.
Right. That's what necessary means.
So you literally don't have an explanation for what created the universe then?
No. Brute facts, I guess, are the ones that don't have an explanation. Necessary facts are explained by their nature. So a brute fact is a thing that's true and has no explanation, which are totally fine in philosophy. Necessary things have an explanation, which is their nature, and their nature is the explanation.
That's circular. That would be like saying, why does a dog have a tail? Well, a dog needs to have a tail, or like that's, you're not explaining why or how a dog has a tail.
What? No, like if something exists and has a nature because it's the foundation of all reality, that is a perfectly fine explanation. Like, what's the problem there?
Well, because you're just stating it. We'd have no way of determining, or you would have no way of determining.
I think you're conflating epistemology and ontology here. Like, how did we come? How do we know that?
No. Don't interrupt it and take a little detour here. I want to stay specific with this line of thinking here,
because you're a dumbass. Like, it seems like you're asking how did you get to know that kind of a question? Like,
no, that's not what I'm asking. Listen, I'm saying that with a lot of people, like say Stephen Krauss, or I believe that is it Stephen Krauss? I might be getting his first name mixed up. Krauss.
Stephen Hawking?
No. Lawrence Krauss. There you go. When he talks about nothingness, he actually states how it has a weight to it. There's actual features to this nothingness. So it's clearly up a new
definition.
So it's clearly not nothing, right? There's something going on, and it has features which we can't explain their origins to. So you're not actually explaining the origins of everything. You're just explaining the origins of the Big Bang.
Lawrence Krauss's made up definition of nothing have to do with anything I said?
Oh, I'm just giving a little bit of, insight or enriching my point here by saying that this quantum field certainly isn't nothing. So it doesn't
said it was.
Okay, fair enough. But nonetheless, my main point there wasn't that. So if you missed my main point, that's unfortunate, but I can repeat it. What's with the shaking of the head? Are you okay?
That's what I asked. I asked, what is your main point? When I said, how does Lawrence Krauss's quote have to do with anything I said?
Yeah, and we just went through it. I'm just enriching my point a bit. It's not refuting anything you're saying. You're now dragging this out so far longer than it needed to be, where if you just let me say the point and focus on...
I'm waiting. I've been waiting this entire time.
The quantum field itself has features. It has properties to it. And we have no explanation for where they came from. So you can explain where the Big Bang came from, but you can't explain where the thing that caused the Big Bang. So it's just, you're right back at square one.
No, a lot of people... Wrong. The explanation is its nature. Necessary beings, the way they work is the explanation of the necessary being is its nature. That is the explanation.
Okay.
The brute fact
that's
has no
what you're
explanation.
saying, but that's not satisfactory because... You would have no way of knowing for certain that it is at the origins of everything, because we were at a point in time. Let's say, for instance, Einstein. Okay, dude, Einstein's a really smart dude, right? He didn't believe in the Big Bang. He believed in a static state universe for a very long time. I don't care about
Einstein. Like, why?
So what I'm saying is that a lot of people had different conceptual ideas.
Of course they do. That's how people work. What does
so when you sit there and say, "Oh my God," like everybody knows the quantum field created the Big Bang. Are you fucking stupid?
Said that. I never said that.
It's so condescending. Okay, so my whole point here is that we don't know what created the quantum field. You have no explanation for it. You literally just say it just is, and that's not satisfactory.
Okay, so
to me, that defies cause and effect. To me, it implies eternal regression into the past or some sort of circular time that doesn't make any sense. And if we want to stay consistent with, creation, cause and effect, dude, you're impossible to talk to. Like,
yes,
even the one thing you fail to realize, TJump, is even if you're 100% right in this debate, the way you conduct yourself. And it's not just with me. It's with plenty of people.
That's great. I don't care. I don't care about your opinion. You're nobody. I don't care about your opinion. So earlier, I said you were.
It makes for a poor conversation.
I don't care about your opinion. You're nobody. Earlier, I said you're confusing epistemology and ontology. Do you know what epistemology means?
Refresh my mind. It's been a while.
Study
since
of
I've
knowledge. How to know things. So when you said we don't know how
It's like
the wait, we don't know how the necessary being's nature got that way or something. That's an epistemology question. It's knowledge, right? How do we know something? Now, the fact that something has a nature is ontology, what exists. Whether or not we know it is irrelevant, right? Epistemology is different than ontology. Whether or not we know it doesn't matter. What matters is it the case? So if it's the case, it doesn't matter if we know it. So like if it's the case that God exists, that's true regardless of whether or not we know it, right?
Sure.
So if it's the case that the quantum field has a necessary nature, that would be a fact whether or not we know it, because it's ontology, right?
Okay, but you're talking about this as if it's a proven fact, which it's not.
No, I'm not. I'm literally not. I'm saying if it is the case, like
yes, and I'm saying yes to if both.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So if it is the case, the quantum field exists and has a necessary nature, it has an explanation. Now we don't know it. We haven't discovered this, but it has an explanation.
Okay. So here lies the train of thought that we need to explore. So you're saying the quantum field does have to have an explanation, right?
Well, it doesn't have to. Brute facts.
Well, I need you to clarify here. Does the quantum field need an explanation or does it not? Because you've gone back and forth here very slightly, but you have.
It doesn't have to. Both are possible. So I can grant it does.
Now you've just gone back on your previous statement, which says that the quantum field does have to have an explanation. We just haven't found it yet. That's literally what you just said.
I never said it has to have an explanation. I said it does.
Okay, so now you're saying it doesn't.
No, I'm saying it can have either, but I'm saying it does. So it doesn't have to have.
Let's just TJump. Enough with the bullshit. Do you believe the quantum field has an explanation? Yes or no?
Yes, necessary nature.
Okay. Do you know?
But it doesn't, just to clarify, I want to try to explain this to you. When I say it doesn't have to have an explanation, that means there's another possibility, which is it's a brute fact.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to use your line. I don't care. I don't care. Just move with the train of thought. I don't care about your sidetracking.
Because you said something stupid. You said something stupid. So I need to try to work you through this.
TJump, let's just move fucking forward with it. You believe the quantum field has to have an explanation, yes?
Stop. There's two possibilities.
Sorry, no. It doesn't have to. You believe it does have an explanation.
Two possibilities. So
TJump, do you believe the quantum field has an explanation?
This might come up later. So
TJump, do you have? I'm not letting you dictate where we go with it. I'm going to continue to ask this, and we're going to go this way.
Mute him so I can continue.
No, so I'm asking you a question, and I just want to continue with it.
Mute him so I can continue.
I would prefer, Ronnie, if you don't mind, just let him ask you the question.
I'm the one asking the question.
Well,
so I'm not asking a question.
Then I'm just trying to go back and forth.
Clarifying what I said earlier. So Ronnie keeps doing this stupid thing where he keeps misrepresenting things I said before because he doesn't understand philosophy. So I want to clarify. Brute facts is a fact that is true but that doesn't have an explanation. It has no explanation. That's the definition of a brute fact. A necessary being is different than a brute fact. A necessary being is a being that has an explanation, which is its nature. Both are possible. I'm going with the necessary being one. Go ahead.
Okay, so do you believe that the quantum field has an explanation?
Yes.
Okay, do you have an explanation for the quantum field?
It's nature.
Okay, so what you would basically say is science has yet to get there, but we will find an explanation, correct?
No, we may never get there. It's irrelevant. That's epistemology. Epistemology is not ontology.
Do you think right now that, let's say it is epistemology, I don't really care. What I'm asking you is, do you think that there is an explanation for the quantum field and we just haven't got there yet? Or yes. Okay. So my next question would be, if say, in the future we find that out, I would be, okay, what created that? And logically, you're going to have to say, well, something must have created it. Because if you believe right now, this thing that you can't explain where it came from, say the quantum field, you would have to then continue to say, well, this next thing probably has an explanation too. And then the next thing we discover would probably have an explanation too. And now you're stuck with going infinitely into the past and it's not an actual explanation. You're just saying, it's the past is essentially creating itself, but God could actually be beyond all of that because by definition, God would be supernatural. So my whole argument is if we look behind door number one, which is science, it can't give us the answer. But if we assume that God is real, then we have all the answers. So this doesn't prove that necessarily God is real. But when we're talking about what created the universe, I believe it's more likely that a God created the universe than a non-explanation, because you literally don't have an explanation.
So, as I said in the beginning, anything the supernatural can explain, the unknown natural can also explain. Science does not know, it knows 1/1,000,000% of anything, which means in the natural world, we could discover a necessary property, a property that has no cause. By its essence or nature, we discover it, it can't be caused, like energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It is not caused. And so if we discover the essence of reality is a necessary being, we've discovered in science an object that can't be caused. It's not caused by anything. If we discovered that, there wouldn't be a why. There's no why was it created. You wouldn't ask that. You would be wrong to ask that. You would be an idiot to ask that, because
how do you know that right now the quantum field is all there is to explain? It just always was. And there is no why. There is no explanation.
I said, if you asked if in the future science discovers this, then there won't be one, because they've discovered a necessary being.
I'm saying we have the tools right now to know that we are going to be in this eternal deadlock of never knowing whether we right now have all the answers or if there's more answers to be in the future.
No.
And yes,
so
because
literally
just like
what I
right
just-
now, TJ, let me explain how yes, because right now in the scientific community, they could say, for all we know, the quantum field just always existed. But then there's going to be another batch of scientists who say, well, no, there might likely be an explanation for that. You're always going to be stuck with those two options of, is there more mystery into the past, or is this basically the foundation of all creation? And what I'm saying is that science basically is illogical at that point, because you're going to have to depend on infinite regression into the past, which is illogical, or you're going to have to say something just always was.
Unless we discover a new property of reality, which in that property can't be created. If we discover that, problem solved.
No, we have. What do you mean we've discovered that?
No.
Because right now,
if we discover that,
but we will never know, because TJump right now, what tools could we possibly have that would tell us we found the ultimate answer?
I don't know, but it's possible.
It doesn't exist because it logically can't.
No, there's no logical
TJump, it literally can't. If we find that substance, let me walk you through it. Let me walk your little brain through this, TJump. I'm going to pull the condescending shit. If we find that substance that you just brought up, somebody could easily ask the question, where did that come from? And how would you know, or anybody know, if it just always existed, or if maybe science has yet to be able to answer the question? And we will never know that. Science will always just have a question mark in terms of the origins.
What is the logical contradiction in a property that we know could not have been created?
And
sorry, repeat that again. Say that again.
Before you actually ask that, once again, we're going to keep the insults towards the arguments, but we have about 5-10 more minutes of open dialogue before we switch into the Q&A. I do want to send a love out there to everyone watching in the live stream. Please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. I am actually enjoying the spice. That is right. And so I'm just going to hand it back over to both of these gentlemen to keep on going and having fun.
You said it was logically impossible for there to be a property that we know wasn't created because somebody could ask the question.
No, I'm saying it's impossible to know if we've found the true origin, or if what we found has another explanation. And we can actually play this out mentally, and you'll agree with me.
Why is it impossible to know?
Let's say we find element X or element Googly with any properties you want to assign to it. Sure. I could always ask the question, where did that come from? You would not be able to prove.
That's the part
you would not be able to prove if it has an origin beyond it, or if it is the beginning. Stop interrupting me.
Why does the fact that someone can ask a question mean anything here? Like, I can ask the question.
It's a mental exercise, TJump, and we can understand that we are confined within a certain amount of options. Either it always existed, or it requires another explanation.
Ask the question, are we in the Matrix? Does that mean that we don't know we're not in the Matrix?
Okay, TJump, let's go down this confusing little road. Let's spin this little web you got set up here with the Matrix.
Right. So I can ask the question, are we in the Matrix? Does that mean that it's impossible to know we are not in the Matrix?
Well, I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but we could actually do some testing and come up with a reasonable explanation. I mean, if we want to get down to how the Matrix is set up with you using humans as batteries, it just doesn't really make sense. The amount of energy that would be required to put into such a process to derive this, the whole Matrix is set up about using humans as batteries. We don't produce enough electricity for the system to function.
So even though I can ask the question, you can still say, no, I know we're not in the Matrix, right?
Yes, just by using logical thought like I just did right there.
Right,
but I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this one, man.
Fine. That's enough. That's enough. So even though somebody can ask the question, you can still know stuff. So if there's some fact we discover, like a necessary particle, and some dumbass asks the question, well, maybe what created it, that doesn't mean you can't know it, right? You can still know it.
TJump, whatever it is that we find that you could argue is the original source or original realm which created all things, you could easily ask the question, just use your imagination. Why couldn't you just ask the question, well, where did that come from? And if, let's say, we find an answer to that, you could then ask the question, well, where did that come from? And now you could mirror back at me and say, well, let's apply this to God. But God can actually escape this problem by saying he's beyond science, he's beyond explanation. Our science, our brains literally cannot comprehend how God works. Our brains can comprehend how science works perfectly fine. I mean, we've traced the universe back to the first seconds, or minute seconds of its existence, and we're now pondering the quantum field in which birthed it. So I believe we will find an explanation for the quantum field. We will find an explanation for whatever created that, and we'll keep going and going. At the end of the day, God is the only thing that could be an absolute original creative point. Otherwise, you're stuck with eternal regression into the past, or just something always existing, and you would never know whether or not the thing you found is the actual original creative point. You would never know.
God, there's so much stupid there. So if you can know things, even if somebody asks a question, the fact that somebody can ask a question doesn't mean you don't know it. You can still know it, just like in the case of
you're talking
Matrix.
So far under me right now, TJump. You just rewatch this part and you'll realize
because you're so stupid. Like, you didn't even understand what I said. I completely debunked your argument, but you're so stupid you didn't understand it. So yes,
just
explain it to you like a child again, because you're so dumb. It's just, that's the best I can do. So
you're just repeating
your argument was that
just talking below
the fact
the main
that
point
someone can mute him so I can just finish, because it's like the closing statements anyway.
Well, in fact, since it is about to hit that mark, if you want TJump, what we'll do is we'll just hand it over to you. When you're done, say so, and we'll hand it over to Ronny. You guys can feel free both to say whatever you would like, and also, where can people find you on the intertubes, as well as it's in the description. But yes, TJump.
Yeah. So his dumbass argument was the fact that somebody can ask the question, where did this come from, or what could have made this, means that you can't know that it's a necessary being. Therefore, it's impossible for us to ever know that there's a necessary being. One, this is again confusing epistemology and ontology. Whether or not we can know it doesn't fucking matter, because it could still be that way. Secondly, we can know it. The fact that there's a way to ask a question doesn't mean you can't know something, which he himself demonstrated, that yes, we can know we're not in the Matrix, even though someone can ask the question. So there could possibly be evidence that we don't know about yet, that we could discover, that'll prove this is a necessary being. And even if some dumbass asks a question like he does, that's not going to mean we don't know it. So his own argument, he debunked it himself. I'll just conclude there, because it's like too much stupid.
Woo-hoo. Thank you so very much, TJump. And we do want to remind everyone out there in the live chat to keep on sending in those questions. And we have a lot of super chats, so thank you guys all for the support and the love. And we will get to those right after. Ronny, the floor is all yours. Where can people find you, and your final thoughts?
People can find me on Telegram. You can find me on Twitter. I mean, I don't want to plug myself too much here. I just want to kind of keep going with the debate and just close out. So when I was younger, I grew up as in a Christian home, mostly, like not like seriously religious, but for the most part, my mom, she believed in God, and my aunt, my grandpa, everybody like that, they for the most part believed, and so I believed. Then when I got old enough to question it, I became an atheist. Christianity just had some bogus answers for the explanation of how Earth was created in 6 days or 7 days, whatever. Adam and Eve. A lot of the things just from a young child's mind didn't make sense to me. And I would get into debates, I get into arguments with Christians and Muslims at school, and I would say to them, like, it's why do you believe in fairy tales? And I felt like I typically would beat them at that side of the debate. And one day we were talking about what created the universe, and I said, well, there was some gases, or there was some sort of field that led to the Big Bang. And they said to me, well, what created that? And I said, well, I don't know. Well, what created God? And they said, well, God just always was. And I said, well, what if this quantum field, or this state just always was? And they said to me, well, if you feel good believing in that, all the power to you, but I believe God did it. And it really stuck with me, because I realized that we are left with that choice. We either have to believe that there will be these eternal explanations for how something can come from nothing, or there is this kind of substance which essentially acts like God. It created the universe. It created all things. It created me and you. It created everything. We could even call that original substance God. So at the end of the day, I was just, I was turned from, I guess, an atheist into a deist or a theist. I don't even know what you want to call me, just from rational thinking, just from that beginning point of, well, the universe either came from nothing, and it's just, we have to believe that somehow there just was always this thing, or something came from nothing, or God did it. And with the belief of God, you can actually use a non-scientific argument and stay consistent. With science, you can't. Science, you have to stay within the realms of how science operates, and that's typically cause and effect. And my opponent here seems to think that it makes logical sense to have infinite explanations into the past as to how the universe could be created. You cannot have infinite regression into the past in terms of explanations for how the universe was created. There had to have been a beginning point. And so we could always ask the question, well, what created that beginning point? And science breaks down. But when we get to God and say, well, what created God? The atheist turns it back around and say, oh, well, where did God come from? You can actually say, hey, it's a supernatural explanation, not just unknown science, but literally beyond science, beyond, it literally defies science. And God is the only thing that is allowed to do that. So I think by kind of like a process of elimination, if science can't explain how the universe came to be in a satisfactory way, it must be God.
Thank you so very much, Ronny, for your closing statement. And with that, we are going to start the Q&A. Keep on sending in your chats at Amy Newman, and your super chats, including $2 from Cameron Hall. Why add God when it's just another problem to solve?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Absolutely. Why add God when it's just another problem to solve?
I don't understand the question. TJump, can you clarify the question?
Yeah, the question is why are you solving an unknown with a bigger unknown? You're positing a new thing that we don't have no evidence for to solve an unknown that we do have evidence for.
Okay, so what I would say is that if we're only going to use a scientific explanation, a non-God explanation, we're basically stuck with eternal regression into the past, or something just always was, and those two things aren't scientific. So there has to be a supernatural explanation / God.
Thank you so very much. At $10 from Stupid Whore Energy. If God is the explanation for the universe, why didn't he make the Higgs mass and top quark mass slightly different, which would result in a completely stable vacuum that won't decay? And I can read that again. If God is the explanation for the universe, why didn't he make the Higgs mass and top quark mass slightly different, which would result in a completely stable vacuum that won't decay?
I have no idea. That's beyond me in terms of the science. Maybe TJump might have something to add to that, but I would just say people ask the questions, why not give humans wings? Why not allow us to live to 1 million years old? There's a lot of reasons why we put rules into games to make them better, right? If we could just use our hands in soccer, it would destroy the game of soccer. I think God or the designer or the universe, whatever you want to call it, has a certain plan. And to just embed cheat codes into all of us so that we live forever, can fly, and have infinite, we won't learn, we won't develop a conscious wisdom that we would if we were limited. And I think God, with his graciousness is I'm not Christian, I'm just messing around, has given us a good go as humans, right? We have all the tools necessary to be happy.
Thank you so very much. And a $10 super chat from Sunflower. TJump, is the scientific process necessarily conductive to your moral theory? For example, what if novel testable predictions somehow eventually result in more involuntary impositions on will?
Based on how the question is asked, I'd probably say no. The method of science is how we know things, but in our discovery of things can be immoral. That's fine. So it would not be the case that doing science would be inherently moral, or that we would need to be able to have science be moral. Like, no, like there may be some things we can only discover by doing immoral things. Sure.
Thank you so very much. Another $10 super chat. Thank you so very much from Sunflower. TJump's rock analogy sucks because there's no incomprehensible paradox in the rock falling. But there is in the origin of matter, space, time, etc. There is an obvious paradox in one and not the other.
That's literally irrelevant. So the only point of the rock analogy was to debunk his claim that being able to answer the why question adds evidence to one hypothesis. The whole point of the rock analogy is that there can be two options: a mind did it or a not mind did it. And so simply the fact that you posit a mind, you can imagine the mind has a motive, doesn't increase the probability a mind did it, because it could be a not mind. Like if a rock fell on somebody, it could have been pushed, or it could have fallen because of an avalanche. Simply the fact that you imagine somebody pushed it and that person may have a motive doesn't increase the probability that's what actually happened.
Yeah, and that's just a very retarded way to look at the situation. The better way to look at it is if all things are equal and one side has a reason for something happening, the other side doesn't, can't explain the why. The one side has a stronger argument. And if we're talking about, how was something done, whether or not the universe was created, one side says, okay, we actually have a reason for, why the universe was created. God wanted there to be living things and for there to be life. Why did the universe create anything? Why did the quantum field decide to be, or why did whatever created the quantum field do what it did? There is no why explanation from a scientific standpoint. So one side
literally just proved that false. He just said the stupid thing I just disproved. Well, I'm going to adopt that stupid thing. Like, okay.
If one side say all things are equal and one guy has a slightly better haircut than the other guy, you could say slightly better looking. So if all things are equal and one side has an explanation for the why and the other side doesn't, then that gives them just within the vacuum of all things being equal, a slight point. It's a slight point. I'm not saying that the why question is a home winning argument just because God can explain why there is a universe, therefore he did it. I'm just saying that without God, there is no answer for why there is a universe. And you have no rebuttal to that.
Baby stepped you through this before.
Yeah, you think you did, but you're just looking at it from a wrong framing
standpoint. This is my question. I get the final word. I baby stepped you through this before. If you have someone who was murdered from another person with a mind, and you see one person with a motive, that's evidence. If there's two possibilities, one is a murder and one is not murder, he just died of natural causes.
What if somebody just died and you don't know if it was murder or natural causes, TJump, and the one side has motivation? There you go. And the other side has no natural cause. Let's say all things are equal. Both sides have no evidence at all, but one side has motive, the other side has nothing. There you go. All things being...
It's not evidence.
Yes, it is. It is evidence. Motivation is... Oh my God.
So dumb.
Dude, you're insane.
The fact
If
that
you don't
someone
think
may have a
motivation
motive
is a form of evidence, you are
It's
just
not.
wrong. You are
the
just
fact
wrong.
that someone may have a motive to kill someone, if they're in the middle of a desert and a rock was on them, the fact that they have a motive doesn't increase the probability that it's true that they murdered them. No.
It actually slightly does.
No, it
Yes, it does.
doesn't.
TJump,
No, it
me and you
doesn't.
go on a camping trip and a rock falls on your head. Do you not think me having, say, maybe motivation, like let's say you slept with my wife, do you not think that slightly increases the chances that maybe I did it
And
over if
answer
that didn't
that,
happen?
but then
Of
we're
course it
moving
did.
on.
So
No,
you're just
because-
dumb and
no,
wrong. You're just
no,
dumb and wrong.
no,
And you think you're a lot
fucking
smarter than what
moron.
you are.
You fucking moron.
Oh.
If someone went to the courtroom and said, I imagine that person did it, and that's the reason that this hypothesis is more likely, that person would be thrown out because they're a dumbass. Simply the fact that you can imagine someone answers the question when you don't know they exist. You don't know if they have a motive. You don't know if they have a brain, but you imagine they can answer. You imagine the person has a motive. You imagine the Snuffleupagus is an existing being and he pushed the rock. This is your argument for God. You imagine an imaginary being has
No,
existed
my
as a
argument is
motive.
that science
And
has no
don't interrupt.
explanation
This
for the
is my
why,
answer,
and God
dumbass.
does
Shut
have
up.
an
Shut
explanation
up,
for why.
dumbass. So
What's the
you
scientific
imagine-
explanation
mute
for
him-
why,
mute him so I
TJump?
can
You don't
finish.
have
This
one.
is
Well,
this is mine.
guys,
This is my question.
Why is this
you
your
have
finish?
to
What
eventually
are you
move
talking about? You had
forward
your
to the
closing.
next
This is
question.
done.
You had your
Mute him.
closing.
Come on, mute him. I get an answer here. This is my question. I get the final word. Mute him. This is
Just
over.
have your final word, TJump, and then we have Spice
Holy
coming
shit.
your way in the next question. So
This absolute dumbass moron doesn't understand that what he's saying is he has an imaginary sky daddy dumbass, and he has imagined the sky daddy has a mind and an intention, and the fact that he imagined him on its own, imagined he has an intention, adds evidence to a hypothesis. No, it doesn't, you fucking moron. It literally doesn't. The fact that you can imagine an imaginary being has an imaginary intention does not add evidence to a hypothesis over something did it with no intention.
a $2 super chat from Franco in all caps says, "Oh, the Spice L jump he's sending."
Okay. Solid argument, bro.
$5 super chat from the Legend Rivs. TJump, your mod Scotty in Discord is a power-hungry, mean bully, but would you be willing to have another conversation with Ryan Dawson about, I think that says 911?
9/11.
That was the
Terrorist.
joke.
If you pay me.
But yes, another $5 super chat from the Legend Rivs. If not, no convo about 911, it seems, with Rye, would you talk with him about deism?
I'd prefer that probably, but yeah, you just gotta pay me.
And all right, thank you so much for the super chats. Another $5 super chat from Franco. What reason do we have to believe there is such a thing as the supernatural?
Because science can't give a satisfactory explanation for why there is something instead of nothing, or how there is something instead of nothing. So if there's only two doors we can open to find an explanation, science being door number one, if we can open that thoroughly and realize, okay, we're left with something just always existed with no cause, or there's infinite cause into the past, to me that's illogical. That doesn't satisfy my brain. I can literally think of, okay, well, what the first moment, what caused that? Okay, this caused that. Okay, and then what caused that? You just keep going. But with God, if God exists, we accept that he's beyond the natural sciences. God, by definition, is the only thing that can be. So therefore, it must be the explanation for why the universe is here.
Thank you so very much. And another $5 super chat from the Legend Rivs. David Talbot's Remembering the End of the World and the Fifth Kind's Why Are We Here explains God. Atheists need a DB perfect for their theory to work. DBPRCT.
What?
I have no idea what that means.
David Talbot's Remembering the End of the World and the Fifth Kind's Why are we here? Explains God's, end quote. Atheists need, in all caps, DBPRCT for their theory to work.
Best guess is, well, I think anybody can make up an explanation. Like atheists can make up an explanation, science can make up an explanation, anybody can make up an explanation, and they're equally good or better than theist explanations. It's like, I don't know why he thinks that people can't make shit up. Like anybody can make shit up.
Yes, people can make shit up. I totally agree. People can make shit up. Never said they couldn't.
He kind of did.
You mean I kind of didn't? Like,
you said science couldn't offer an explanation for the origin of the universe.
Not a satisfactory one that is logical. It can be made up. Yeah, giant nose sneezed the universe out.
Great. Yeah. So science can make up an explanation that's equivalent to yours.
No, they can't, because they're not allowed to in order to stay consistent. It's like saying somebody who advocates for not smoking can sit there and smoke and be consistent. No, you can't. If all you're saying is that a natural cause must be used, a rational, logical cause, and you're Mr. Scientist, you can't do the thing you're saying you can do right now. You can't make up a silly explanation that's beyond science and natural explanation, because you wouldn't be consistent. But somebody who believes, let's say a Christian, if they believe God created the universe in 7 days, they would be being consistent, correct? They're not allowed to say, no, God didn't create the universe, because then they wouldn't be consistent, correct?
Sure.
So what I'm doing is saying, okay, everybody being consistent, this Mr. Scientist, Mr. Christian, and Mr. Deist, who is most likely to be right? God, the Christians say the universe was created in 7 days. God pulled a rib from Adam. Sounds all bullshit. I don't believe in it. Then the scientists say, well, the universe just popped into existence out of nowhere, or it just always was. We don't really know. That sounds like bullshit. Then you have a deist or just believer in God who says, well, I'm not really sure what God is, but it only makes sense that a God could create the universe. It only makes sense that a God could be beyond science.
Where is the inconsistency with positing a new ontology? How is that inconsistent with science?
Well, yeah, sure, you can posit a new ontology, but the thing is, you're still going to run into the same problem of knowing. Okay, yes. We think about it this way, TJ. We can think of math that's beyond our understanding of math, but it's not going to necessarily destroy our understanding of math insofar as its basic principles. 1 + 1 is 2, simple addition, simple subtraction. Those things are always going to be true. Math will be true in all possible universes. Okay, we didn't even get to this topic of how there's math and why there's math. Humans discovered math. We never invented math, right? We could say that a greater form of math will come to be about, but what we know right now logically is etched in a stone. Okay, 2 + 2 is 4, multiplication, all of that makes sense, and you can't think of another form. You can't think of another principle like subtraction, addition,
how does this
multiplication,
tie back into the new ontology
division
thing?
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that even though we can think of there being more math, greater math, it's not going to change what we currently know. Okay. So if we think about how could something be, we already have the tools within us to know that it's either A, has to always be, or B, it had a creation point before it. Those are the only two explanations. You know this, TJump. Stop pretending to be
so science. Here's what we know.
There's
about
only
science,
two explanations for how something is. It either always was, or something caused it. Do you not agree?
So here's the stuff we know.
We don't need any more knowledge to understand that this is always going to be.
You're missing the point here. So
you're missing the fucking point. You're literally missing the point, TJump. Answer the question. Does something either always have to be, or have a cause? Is there another third explanation?
Yes,
what is the third explanation?
Circular causation. I explained that before. So
circular causation doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. You don't even believe in circular causation.
Stop bringing up irrelevant bullshit. It means nothing. There's science right here. Little tiny dot.
You're honestly like just not that smart, bro.
Science, little tiny dot. You make up a supernatural.
Here you go again.
Stuff, right.
Totally going in a separate direction.
Your
because you only have two options.
The question was about how does supernatural posit a new ontology? You posit a new ontology of supernatural. I posit a new ontology of uber duper super materialistic natural.
Yes.
Why does your made up ontology have some magic power that my made up ontology doesn't?
Because yours would, by definition, be believing in God or the supernatural.
Solve the problem?
Dude, let me answer your fucking question. Your premise doesn't make sense because when you say a super duper natural explanation, you're no longer being scientific and you're now making up a religion.
No,
By definition, yes. When you say it's super duper
supernatural
unnatural
can
or
do something.
supernatural, it's no longer scientific by definition.
No, it's still scientific.
Yes.
You fucking dumbass. Science doesn't know everything.
You're such a fucking idiot,
Saying
man,
more
honestly.
stuff exists that we don't know is not unscientific.
You said earlier you wish you were in the same room
made
as
this
me
claim.
and you'd slap
I
me
would
upside
beat
the
the shit
head.
out of
Oh
you
yeah,
because
that,
you're
that's
We
dumb.
are,
rich.
and with
That's
that, I am
rich.
pushing you both aside. We are moving forward,
Holy
though.
shit,
The
you're
spice
stupid.
is coming from the super chat. Logical, plausible, probable for $2 says, has TJump lost his mind? Let's discuss in an after show. That is right. We will always support all after shows on here. So feel free to check out Logical, Plausible, Probable's after show right after the debate. And all right, keep on going. The Legend Ribs. And I looked down, so I'm gonna... he sent in another super chat for explanation, which was... DBRCT means double-blind, placebo, randomized control. So with that, I'm going to go back up, and he asks another question for $5 that says, DBPRCT needs to be a model of parenting versus non-parenting in children after birth. That would prove humans could survive without parenting.
What? Okay. Double-blind controlled trials are ways to verify a hypothesis. Okay.
Another $5 super chat from Franco. The lack of answer on our part doesn't mean no answer, so jumping to a supernatural explanation seems unfounded.
It's the only other explanation. It literally is. I mean, this is something that a 13-year-old can grasp quite easily. The universe came to be in a very mechanistic type of way. You know, the same science that can be applied to, why there is plant life or anything like this can be applied to the origins of the universe. Or there's some magical entity that's beyond science called God, right? I can even belittle my position, and it still basically is the only other option. Either there is a pure, raw, hard scientific explanation for why there is anything, or God did it. Those are the only two explanations. We could break down God and say, okay, it's a watered down Christian version, or it's a sexed up type of deist position, or, we could, whatever. It comes down to that. TJump likes to act like he's confused. What are you talking about? There's so many different positions. No, basically it's science or God did it. Really, that's what it comes down to.
All the philosophers, because they all say you're wrong.
They'll actually say that I'm right, but they'll say that there can be a mixing of the two. What, TJump?
Nope.
Give me a third explanation that isn't a mixing of the two.
One God could exist, and he did it in a scientific
Mixing
manner.
of the two. That's what I believe in. One God exists, and he did it in a scientific manner. That's literally what I believe.
There's only two possibilities: either God did it or science did it. One.
Yes, please give me a third.
There are Christians who believe in science, so they're the same. So there's not
no. But
both at the same time.
Would they say that God requires a scientific explanation for how he was created? They would say no, he's beyond science, because literally, how could that make sense? God would just be an alien if there could be a scientific explanation for how he exists. He wouldn't actually be God, the creator of all, because there would be something before him that created him, therefore destroying the definition of what God actually is.
No, Christians agree with me that God's a necessary being, and so it's easy to understand his explanation as his nature. Like, that's the thing.
Why do you have to be so difficult? Christians don't believe there's a scientific explanation for how God came to be. You know this. Stop shaking your head like you're a fucking spaz retard. Just be a normal human being and agree to something that we both know is true.
Moron.
Christians do not believe there is a scientific explanation for how God came to be. They believe God uses science to create the universe. You fucking idiot.
So dumb.
No, you're actually dumb. And any Christian would believe.
Yeah. You have a problem with past infinite because you think there is a time zero. There isn't. Infinity is a real thing. Physical qualities exhibit singular behavior, becoming infinite at the critical point.
That's incorrect. If time is circular, that how did the circle get there? right? We could just ask that question, right? Let's literally say, okay, time is circular. Everything is happening all at one time. There is no now and before and present. It's all just one. Okay, well, where did the circle of time come from? If time is linear, we can ask the question, where is the beginning point? And if time spirals off into different directions, we could still ask the question of where did it come from and where was its original point of spiraling from? Okay, and we'll never get answers to those because science literally can't answer them because it requires a non-scientific explanation. There has to be something beyond these confines to explain how all of this came to be.
A line going in one direction infinitely isn't a fucking circle. Learn basic geometry.
Yes, you misunderstand what I'm saying then. Okay, what I'm saying, a line going forward is very different than a circle, absolutely. And in terms of the Big Bang and cause and effect, I keep going with that linear function. And what I argue is you cannot move infinitely into the past and have the past creating itself, because that would mean right now the universe is creating itself from the beginning moment. The whatever created the thing that created the thing that created the thing that created the universe, it right now is creating itself into the past, which doesn't make sense.
Creating itself, infinite past, circle. Line.
I can't see what you've written there. I don't know if
Creating itself is a circle, infinite past is a line.
So where was the beginning point, and how did the circle get there?
Infinite past is a line. So the person who made a comment was about a line, not a circle. No circle. No circle. No creating itself. No circle. That's a circle.
Okay. So we don't believe in a circle of time.
Correct.
So you believe in a linear form of time.
Line. Yes.
Yes. So
it wasn't creating itself. Creating itself is a circle.
No, but infinite regression into the past is also creating itself.
No,
so
literally not. Literally not what it means in any version of physics or philosophy. Literally no.
When we're talking about the origins of the universe and how there is something instead of nothing, if you're going to say that time exists infinitely into the past, then what that implies is that the origins of the universe is right now making itself up.
No.
And even right now, that thing is making itself up. Yes, it is.
No,
then you do not understand infinite
circle.
Time into the past. You've never thought about it.
You understand
no, that's
nothing.
linear.
That's circle.
And
dude,
circle.
okay,
So,
we're here in the present, moving forward. The past is that way. If what you're saying is that the past always has continual explanations, that means the past has to be moving infinitely into the past, you fucking retard.
And
no,
so
do a little bit more thinking about it, and
you're
you'll
gonna
understand.
have one more comment because it was Ronnie's question. We have to let him have the final statement. So, if you're not, either way, Ronnie, your final statement on the question.
God is the only thing that can be beyond science or nature. God is the only thing that can be infinite. Time itself into the past cannot be. We cannot have infinite origin stories for why there is something instead of nothing, and we cannot have something that just always existed without an explanation. That's unscientific. God is allowed to be unscientific by definition.
Thank you so very much for your answer and for your question, Stupid Whore Energy. And a $5 question from Mr. Monster. Is God outside of the universe, or is God made of the universe?
I would say that God is beyond our universe. Like, okay, so this is my personal position, right? I try to keep my personal beliefs out of the debate, but I believe we are all part of God. So kind of like a pantheist type of view, but I do believe there is a true God source. So like you could say, my hand is me. My hand is definitely part of Ronnie, but is it as much part of Ronnie as my brain? No. So what I would say is all the physical matter in the universe is part of God, but there is a God source that is more, actually God, like his brain, that is beyond this universe. It is the conscious realm, or the conscious part of God that we aren't necessarily one with. Other people do believe, other believers think we're all one with God and everything is equal. But to me, that doesn't make any sense. How could a picnic bench be as equally close to God as a human? How could, a human be one with God? It doesn't make any sense. But I think we are part of him.
Thank you so very much. A $2 super chat, again from Logical Plausible Probable. Is TJump in Meltdown? Come discuss in After Show. Not only that, but I went out and found his link, and so I am sending that link for the After Show into the chatosphere, so come on and join. But thank you so much, LPP, for the support. And with that, we are moving forward with $5 super chat from Mr. Monster. Has the telescope disproved Big Bang Theory? Has the new telescope disproved Big Bang Theory specifically? So
No.
Okay, moving forward. Logical, plausible, probable. Oh, the spice is real. Is TJump's ego insane? Discuss in after show. Thank you again for all of the love, Logical, Plausible, Probable. And the link to your after show is now in the chat if anyone would like to visit. And if you ever want to host your own after show for one of our debates, feel free, and we will always support you right back. The Legend Ribs, $5. Quantum fields align more with a possible creator since it is the birth child of Newton and other electromagnetic founders on macro and micro scales.
No, quantum fields are an actually existing thing. They weren't invented by humans. So, no.
Thank you so very much for your answer. Moving forward. Again, in all caps. After show will be a dumpster fire. Don't miss it. I normally have my little dumpster. Thank you so very much, LPP. Again, sending so much love. And yeah, for the support. And $5, Cap'n Crunch. Rumor has it the butt print on TJump's clam chair is deeper than the Mariana Trench. Moving forward, thank you, Captain Crunch. $2. Once again, more billboards. Logical, Plausible, Probable says open mic after show right after the debate. Don't miss it. It's like now I'm thinking James Jennison, the guy from Spider-Man. We want after shows. Give me pictures of after shows. But sending so much love. Logical, Plausible, Probable, and yeah. Azira Schizophrenia for MYR for $20. Sending so much love. Ronny Cameron, in the present time, money is the most important thing. We need to work. We need money to survive. So how can God be more important?
Well, I mean, you can pursue wealth and still believe in God, right? So it's kind of like a false dichotomy. But yeah, I think to say that either one isn't important, you're either missing what's right in front of you or you're missing what's up above. So I think you need to have kind of like a ground floor outlook on life. You know, you got to be able to pay your bills, you got to develop relationships and be a functioning member of society. But if you don't ask the bigger questions, if you don't have a spiritual aspect of yourself, well, you're missing a view from a higher elevated point of consciousness.
Thank you so very much for that answer. $5 super chat from a madman with a soapbox. God is a lazy solution to the problem of existence that has done far more harm to the world than good.
Is this for me?
I would assume so.
Yeah, well, I'm not a religious person, but to defend religion, I would say that money and resources have been a much bigger cause of war. I personally believe that many of the rulers throughout the ancient worlds didn't actually even believe in their religions. They just used it as a way to kind of quell or control the masses. And, obviously war can come from that. But yeah, religion certainly is responsible for a lot of wars. But in the last couple hundred years, I think you'd be really hard pressed to say that religion has really been at the backbone of wars. It's been mostly economic and political, social reasons.
Thank you so very much. $5 from Anthony TJump. Why do you feel the need to threaten someone in the middle of a discussion? Your conduct suck the life at what it could have been a great debate. Ooh, the spice is real.
He said I wouldn't say it to his face. I said I would. So it wasn't a threat. I was just saying what would happen.
Okay,
And
so
it couldn't have been a
clarify,
good debate because he's too stupid. To
this is
understand
what
the arguments.
happened. He threatened me. Then I said he wouldn't say it to my face, and then he said yes, I would. He just tried to say no, I never threatened him. He just pulled this thing out of his ass, saying, "Oh, you wouldn't say this to my face." And then I said yes. No, you literally said I'll slap you, or I should slap you, and upside the head or something like that.
No, you said I
yeah.
wouldn't say it to your face, and I'd say yes, I would. I'd gladly say it to your face and slap you upside the head.
Okay, there you go. So you would say the thing to my face, and you would slap me upside the head. So
Sure.
yeah, so that's pretty much
not a
when
threat. That's not a
the person
threat, sir.
comment. That's not a threat. No.
No.
Okay. I mean, I don't care. I would never call the police on you. You're too cute and adorable to possibly do that to. And plus, I don't hit people who wear glasses. But yeah, like you did, and the way you conducted yourself was horrible. It really took away from a lot of the conversation. And trust me, I've had conversations with people who I do know aren't the smartest, but surprisingly, a lot of the times they have something of value to bring to the conversation. So even if you do feel that you're the intellectual superior, the fact that you feel the need to like dominate, attack, and be so immature, I really don't get it.
It's because you were too stupid to actually listen to what I was saying.
You say that to everybody, though. You say that to Harvard grads, so nobody takes you seriously, man.
Literally,
you say that to Harvard grads.
That's an accusation. So again,
Daniel, the Muslim, the white apostate, you literally said that to him, and he has more credentials.
He is a dumbass. He's 100% dumbass.
And
the reason I called you a dumbass was because you weren't listening to what I was saying and addressing the arguments. I gave. What
I'm trying to say is, you call everybody a dumbass, so it means nothing to nobody. You constantly insult people, and it means nothing to nobody because you do that to everybody. When you say somebody's a fucking idiot, it means nothing.
Nope, he insulted me. I get to respond. He insulted me. I get to respond. So the fucking dumbass. There are 700 videos. You can clearly see I don't insult everyone. The only people I insult are the ones who have their heads so far up their ass they won't listen to what I'm saying. I gave you a clear, concise explanation of every one of the arguments, and you had your head so far up your ass you didn't take the time to listen and address the points I made. You're a dumbass. That's why I called you a dumbass.
A $2 super chat from Bubblegum Gun, also bringing the spice. Petition to ban TJump from all debate platforms.
Can I comment on that?
Well, I would say only if...
10 seconds?
See, the problem is that he would have to have the last word, and
give us 10 seconds each.
Want to have a word.
10 seconds each. So I think TJump used to be a lot better before. I guess maybe he started getting burnt out or bored. And now, if say he's debating somebody who has far less reputation, it's a win-tie scenario. If he beats me, he just ties. If he loses, I mean, that's horrible. He can't actually really win in these debates. So I kind of feel for him.
I have to give TJump the last statement. It is for you.
I don't care. Nothing he said was coherent.
Okay. $5 super chat. Do you agree that God, being able to do things people claim to have witnessed it to do, doesn't mean it is capable of creating the whole of existence?
Say that one more time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you agree that God, being able to do the things people claim to have witnessed it do, doesn't mean it is capable of creating the whole of existence?
I'm having a hard time understanding exactly what they're saying here. Because I don't believe in the fairy tales within religious text or whatever, Christianity. How is it that I could believe God created the whole universe when I don't believe, maybe he took a rib from Adam and gave it to Eve? I think the workings of God are scientific. Like what TJump said earlier, there are plenty of Christians who believe God is scientific. Absolutely. But no Christian nor myself would say that what comprised God, what made up God, has a scientific explanation. We would all say that no, God's origins is literally beyond science. He is the creator of science, essentially, is what we would say. So the fairy tales in the Bible, they're not scientific. They don't match up with what I see in the real world. So I don't think God just selected this one little point in time where he was going to do all this interaction, and then for the rest of humanity, he just backed off and said, you know what, that's enough. Just let them figure it out from here. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Thank you so very much for that. Moving right along. $5 from the Legend Rivets. Also, thank you, Quana Upstate, for the last one. The Legend Rivets, $5, was just reminding us this is where the double-blind placebo randomized controlled trial came in. Thank you so very much. As well as a follow-up with that for $2. Thank you so very much to Livitz for the support. Thank you so very much. $2 super chat. Nikki in all caps is saying, Amy is awesome. I am sending that love right back to you. It has actually been a fantastic, fun debate. So I want to thank both of our debaters for all of their wonderful arguments and back and forth so far. And thank you, Nikki, for the support. And all right, the Christian Metalhead for $10. What would allow the necessary nature of the universe to actualize other objects into reality rather than just simply be without conscious intent, including the property of our own intelligibility? I might have to read that one more time.
It's because it's
okay.
inside of its nature. It has quantum fluctuations are a function of its nature, and the quantum fluctuations can bring into the universe. And you don't need a choice or a decision to do that.
Thank you so very much for that answer. Another $10 super chat from Sunflower. TJump, when we discover what appear to be cave drawings in places we previously thought impossible, why do we rearrange the anthropological record to account for how people made them? Could have been rocks.
Because cave drawings, there's no natural process that produces cave drawings.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of if you come across a watch on the beach, surely a man created it, therefore the universe was created by God. I mean, that's a huge stretch, right? It's taking something that we already know is created by man. So right away, the whole analogy is kind of poisoned. So yeah, I don't even really like that form of argumentation. I'd probably be with TJump on that.
Irony, so much juicy irony.
Well, here's the thing. The fine tuning we never even really got into. I try to just keep this as the debate as
by irony. I meant that what you just said is pretty much what I said about your first argument.
I know. TJump, again, you say something, I begin to talk, and you just assume that you've talked over me, and it's really funny. It's just hilarious at this point, because I was literally just about to address that with the whole, we didn't get into the whole fine tuning thing, because obviously you're going to say that, I'm saying the universe must be created by this thing. I'm invoking whatever, exactly where you're going with this. I know where you're going with this.
I wasn't talking about the fine tuning. I was talking about the argument you made about the cosmological argument coming to existence. I was saying the argument you just made about the fine tuning argument is the same argument I made against your cosmological argument.
And I do want to just say that if you have chance now, this is the last time to get in a super chat. So I will read all of them, but because we value our interlocutors' time, we want to also let them have a fantastic night and thank them for being here. So get them in now. But we do want to keep on sending love out there, everyone on the interwebs having a good time with us. $2 super chat from Counterintuitive. Ronny, how is that not a God of the Gaps argument?
Well, I would argue it is a bit of a God of the Gaps argument, but I don't necessarily think that makes it a bad argument. I think the wisest people throughout time kind of looked at God this way. All the scientists, I guess, pre-industrial revolution, Renaissance era, they all believed in God, yet they were all scientific thinking people. And so they would get to a certain point and they would say, okay, you know what? I think maybe this is where God comes into play. And then we push our understanding of the universe back a little bit, and we think we're at an origin point. So we say, okay, we think this is where God came into play, and then we keep pushing it further back. And it's very similar to what the atheist does, or the scientists say, okay, well, we now believe in the Big Bang. What created the Big Bang? We don't know. Now we have a quantum field. What created the quantum field? We don't know. Maybe we will. So it's a God of the gaps either way. Basically, we're stuck with the same question that we've been dealing with since Plato and Aristotle. Why is there something instead of nothing? And I think all cultures throughout the world have asked this question. And the only satisfying answer is there is a God. Otherwise, all cultures wouldn't have believed in God. There is nothing else that can satisfy it.
So in philosophy, a God of the gaps is more formally known as an argument from ignorance fallacy. You probably don't want to say it's a good argument.
Listen, just because I can concede some ground and I understand where the other side is coming from, like, okay, that's a bit of a God of a gaps argument, yes, but you don't really do that with your arguments. You don't like to be an honest, good faith debater. So even when there's a point where you probably should say, yeah, okay, I got you, or I understand what you're saying, that is a bit of a problem. Nonetheless, you just right away try to make it seem like your opponent is a complete idiot for even suggesting something. That squinty face you do right there, that's your go-to thing. It's if
you're an idiot. Like,
well, no, you just never like to be, I guess,
check my conversation
in good
with,
faith, or well, at least late. No, because in the past you were like that, but something happened, and yeah, you're just a different.
Check my conversation yesterday with Tovia Singer. I'm like that too with non-morons.
Like you're like that too with non-morons, so that you're just saying that's just how you are.
No. I'm like what you mentioned. Like before, when I was nice and kind to smart people, I'm still like that with people who aren't morons. Like check my conversations like yesterday.
Okay, people who, all right, yeah, sure.
Non-morons.
$5 super chat from Franco. Isn't posing the supernatural God explanation as an origin that needs no explanation special pleading?
No, because it's all about staying consistent with your belief system. So if we take a look at, say, all the Muslims out there, all the Christians out there, we understand that they believe in God. So we wouldn't really be so confused if they say, well, you know, God punishes and rewards people. We wouldn't be like, what are you talking about? God punishes and rewards people? We understand that this is basically following the premise of their belief system. If there is a God, he would most likely punish and reward people. That's basically where they're coming from. So what I'm saying is that if there is a God, we have an explanation for the universe. It makes sense why God would create the universe. Without a God, we don't have a how, we don't have a why. So even though I can't prove that God did it by process of elimination, if science can't, it must be God.
That's special pleading.
Well, I don't really care what it is. It's still staying consistent. You would have to say that, again, like we're talking about believing in God here, right? Somebody believes in something that can't be proven.
Special pleading by definition is,
and they believe that thing is supernatural. So it's not a stretch to believe that there is going to be that type of supernatural response in their explanation. But the thing is, science can't use a supernatural explanation. So it's not like, hey, I'm allowing person A to punch person B in the face, but person B can't punch person A in the face. No. That's not what I'm doing at all. If I'm keeping exactly each. No, see, that's the problem, because
so it seems like you're saying natural scientific, nothing in the natural scientific world can explain the origin of everything, but the supernatural can.
Therefore, the supernatural must be the only explanation.
That's special pleading. So it's simply saying because you assume this person can't do it, which you haven't proven, therefore the other person can do it. That's actually an argument from ignorance, but...
No, because you have to think of the framework. Science, by definition, can't use a supernatural explanation. Do you agree?
No.
Science can use a supernatural explanation.
Yes.
See, this is what I mean with your obtuseness. Just be fucking real and answer a thing we both agree on. Science can't use a supernatural explanation.
No,
yes or no?
Like literally, there are papers about science, scientific papers about.
Oh my god, man! I don't want to even talk to you anymore.
No one,
because it's impossible to find a middle ground and a point where you could even agree on an axiom. No, you're actually just that annoying.
No one in science says you can't use supernatural explanations. No one in science. No one ever.
Are you fucking retarded?
$5 super chat.
Unless they believe in God, that's the only way. While being scientific, you can't use a supernatural explanation while being scientific.
Who believe in the supernatural.
Somebody in the chat, please provide a source. Email us a link in which a scientist uses a supernatural explanation. And who isn't religion. It's an atheist using a supernatural explanation. You find it to me, and I'll admit TJump is right. Okay. But we all know that's bullshit. We all know TJump is capable of saying the most retarded shit possible.
Sarkiris.
It's absolutely
insane. Google Sarkiris on my YouTube channel. He's an atheist who believes in the supernatural.
Yeah,
and
probably
has
some
published
outlier.
Probably
some
psychology
outlier.
journals. You wanted an example. I gave you an academic journal. Psychology journals on
Yeah, he's probably some sort of deist,
are
and he
atheists.
described himself as an atheist, because I describe myself as an atheist.
$5 super chat.
There are many atheists who believe in
Who
the
believe in the
supernatural.
supernatural.
If
Oh,
you
yeah.
wear
Not
glasses.
God. Yes.
Sure.
Spirits and ghosts and
But no God.
fields and no God. Yes, this is very, very common. How are you so dumb? How are you so ignorant of basic human
We're
knowledge?
gonna-
It wouldn't be supernatural then. It would just be a science that we haven't discovered yet.
Supernatural means beyond natural. That's all it means. There can be stuff beyond
Yes,
the
so then there
natural
would
that
have to be
isn't
an
a God.
explanation for it.
Oh my God.
If there's no explanation for it, then it's within some sort of other spiritual realm. What realm would it be in?
If you wear glasses.
Stupid.
You
And
can
look
call it
like
supernatural,
a
but if it has an
soy jack.
explanation, it's not supernatural. It's not. Anything that has an explanation isn't supernatural.
Where in the definition of supernatural is that?
Let's look
so
it up.
Stupid.
Let's look
Please.
it up.
And while you are looking it up, I am going to $5
Oh
super
my
chat.
God.
If you wear glasses and look like a soy jack, you're probably just going to blindly believe whatever an authority figure tells you.
Supernatural, the manifestation or attribute of some force beyond scientific understanding. of the
Yes,
laws
you
of nature.
fucking idiot.
Where does it say has no cause? Where
No,
does it say
beyond
that?
science. It's literally beyond science. The supernatural is beyond
Sci-
science, so
science
therefore a
is-
scientist can't
what the
use the
fuck?
supernatural. You fucking idiot.
No,
you just
you-
proved
oh
yourself
God,
so
you're so
goddamn
stupid.
wrong. You're
Science-
so fucking dumb. Man.
science
It's
is a
hilarious. I love
method.
it. I love it. That was
Science
great.
is a
Can you
method.
just repeat that definition
Yes,
again so the
I
whole
would
audience
happily.
can hear it?
Supernatural, a manifestation of or event attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding of the laws of physics. Scientific understanding is the current amount that we currently know, which means gravity 500 years ago was beyond scientific
But
understanding.
it wouldn't be supernatural. It's just
Right.
beyond science.
Right. So you don't
Sorry, beyond their understanding of science at the time.
Wait. So
So
again,
what I'm
that's-
arguing is that
this is
something
what you're
that
understanding.
literally can't be explained by science is supernatural.
No,
And
no,
what
no,
is
the-
supernatural
The
can't be explained
definition
by
in the
science.
definition I just read, what it says beyond scientific understanding.
Listen,
doesn't
okay,
mean what you think it means.
Webster's dictionary. The meaning of the
Webster's?
supernatural is of or relating to an order of existence beyond the visible observable universe, especially of or relating to God.
Sure. So especially or means it can be something else.
Here you are being so obtuse, trying to say, "What are you talking about? Supernatural has nothing to do with God." Do you have any idea how
No,
many
no, no.
scientists
Wait,
and
wait,
atheists
wait.
use supernatural
What does the word
explanations?
especially mean? Especially means like possible. Sometimes.
No, it
mostly,
doesn't mean possible.
especially.
Especially means
not
like
all.
like
It's not
no.
every. It's the
No,
opposite
especially
of every.
means like specifically pertaining to or I don't want to get
Not every.
Dude, this is where obtuseness gets you. It gets you down a realm where you're searching up
Webster's
definitions of supernatural.
supernatural.
I try to make it easy. Supernatural, beyond science. Anything that has a
Webster's.
scientific explanation is the study of nature, natural laws, anything that we can measure and determine.
You skipped the first definition of or relating to orders of existence beyond the visible observable
Yes,
universe.
I said
That's it.
that.
That's
No,
it.
and then it says of or relating to God. I said both
No,
definitions.
that's
You
that's
are
the-
a selective
that's the
listener. You're a
second
fucking
one.
fool, man.
So supernatural
Fucking
applies to
fool.
lots of things that don't.
But I have a
include
lot
God.
of fun. I
How
have a
are
lot
you
of fun,
so
and it's
stupid that you don't know the supernatural applies to things other than God.
$2 super chat
A
from the
god,
Legend
demigod,
Lives.
spirit, or devil. A spirit can exist without a god.
yeah, all
Demigod can
God.
exist without a
That's
god.
what I said. All God.
What?
It's
No,
all in the spiritual
A
realm. It's
non-God.
all within this realm of God. You can call it a
Non-gods
spirit,
are
you can call it an
supernatural.
angel, you can call it whatever. I'm trying to break it down into science, natural, what we
God,
all
you're
understand
dumb. You're just
as
so dumb. You're just so
no,
incredibly
you're just
dumb.
so obtuse. and
$2
you are
super
really
chat from the Legend Rivs. We keep on thanking you for all the support and love you gave us. We're sending it right back. Spicy is TJump Ragan.
What? Road dragon?
That's what it appears to be. We're gonna keep on moving forward. $5 from Robert Summers, and it looks like these are going to be the last few questions. Ronnie, why do you get to say what this God is or isn't, and that it is beyond human understanding?
Well, I don't define God in terms of exactly what he is, but I can define God in terms of what he isn't. God certainly isn't, a snail under some dirt that created the universe. It just doesn't make sense, because we could ask the question, where did the snail come from? So clearly we can start to use that type of thinking to rule out what God could be. He's not an eagle. He's not this. It has to be something far beyond that. Now, why do I get to use the supernatural explanation? I've already explained that. Anybody who believes in God, a Muslim who I disagree with Islam, they are allowed to use supernatural explanations while being consistent. It's whether or not they can argue and defend their positions. I'm not just going to say, oh, that's supernatural, you're therefore wrong. I would hear them out, and then I would attack them in whichever way I could. So like the story of Adam and Eve, the story of Noah's Ark, the parting of the seas, there's a lot of things there that I can attack. But I wouldn't be like, oh, you're not allowed to use these supernatural explanations. In fact, they are. A scientist isn't allowed to use supernatural explanations. So if a scientist says to me, well, how do we know that a giant squirrel just didn't poop out the universe? I would say to him, come on, you don't believe that because you're a scientific reasoning individual. So don't give me these types of obtuse answers. Just be real with what you think actually happened, or what is possible to be able to happen. So yeah, scientists can't use ridiculous answers like, we don't know and it could just be anything, blah, blah, blah. They're stuck with having to be able to explain it scientifically.
Most atheists and agnostics believe in supernatural powers and that there are forces of good and evil, even though they do not believe in a God. New study finds.
Okay, so we're in the realm of semantics. So I will define supernatural as being of God or pertaining to a godly realm. If you define supernatural as being, say, UFOs, or a lot of people would say Bigfoot is supernatural. No, those things aren't supernatural.
No one says those are supernatural.
Well,
Supernatural
some people do.
is
Yes,
a
they
force outside of the natural universe. That's what it means. Beyond supernatural nature, beyond the natural.
And Ronny, you have the last, because it was your question, you have the last word.
Yeah, I would say that anything that is beyond the universe, and not just part of another dimension or part of another multiverse. I'm saying something that is literally beyond scientific testing. We can't get to it. It's like a person in a video game trying to explore our universe. It's in this digital realm. It literally can't get out here. It's in this totally different thing. That's what I define as the supernatural, because if we do find something that's in, say, a different realm, like even Stranger Things, that wouldn't be supernatural because it could all be explained scientifically. Nowhere in Stranger Things do they say there's God or heaven or hell. It's all just, a different dimension, which obviously would have its own scientific principles and all of that. So at some point we would no longer call it supernatural. It would now be called natural. True supernatural is beyond nature, not just our current understanding of it, but eternally beyond nature. So when he describes, gravity used to be this supernatural force. No, it was just a natural force that was beyond our current understanding. Supernatural would be something like an angel, something like God, something that is just beyond any sort of scientific rationale.
Yeah, like the Elysian Field.
Can you explain that?
It's the place where people go when they die, in different religions that have no gods. Like there's fields that are there, like Buddhism has no God. There's just a field of consciousness that's there outside of the physical world. It's supernatural. There are supernatural hypotheses, no gods. It's very, very simple.
I think Buddhism does have a problem with explaining origins and getting into the real nitty gritty.
People believe in supernatural things that don't include a God, that are outside of the natural, completely
but I think even Buddhists would, when you press them, they do believe in some sort of God force. They just define God differently. He's not a person. He's more of a force, and that's actually how I view God. I don't view God as necessarily a person pulling levers. God is more of like a force, and Buddhists do believe in this spiritual type of force, which could be called God. It's just semantics at that point.
If it's not conscious, it's not God.
No, not necessarily true. It could be a God force. It could be more like a program, which it doesn't necessarily have its own sense of itself.
And then $5.
Look at that
going
face.
To be
like, how is that different from
doing that, man? It's not good for you. It's not good for anybody.
How is that different from a quantum field? Like, what is the difference between what you just said and quantum field?
Because the quantum field would have no intentions. A spiritual force, which is kind of like angelic in nature, which has some sort of will, it doesn't necessarily have to be conscious of itself or aware of itself.
You can have intentions without being conscious?
Let's not get it twisted. I do believe that God is conscious of itself, but I can stretch the definition of God, and most people can, to the point where Buddhists do believe in a God force. And I've talked to many Buddhists.
How can a force have intentions if it's not conscious? If you have to have intentions, you have to be conscious.
It could be consciousness, but not okay. So you know how philosophers talk about what it's like to be love instead of to love, or to be the admirer of love, like to actually be love itself is to be beyond the loved or the person loving. If you haven't heard this, well, I mean, that's a thing in philosophy.
Love doesn't have intentions.
And then last statement, because it was you, Ronnie, your question. So if you would like to...
a question for me?
Oh, no. Last statement, if you want to have a period on there.
Oh, I kind of lost sight of the original.
That's okay. And I will say, we have these two from Stupid Horror Energy and a last one from the Christian Metalhead, and then that is going to be it, folks. So if you send one in, we appreciate the support. But like I was saying, we have just enjoyed our interlocutors' time. $5 from Stupid Horror Energy. Hey, Ronnie, I asked basic cosmological questions that you couldn't answer. Pick another hobby. Ooh, spicy.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know what cosmological question he could have asked. Like, somebody right now could ask me, what is the exact rate that the universe is expanding? Define specifically the strong and weak forces. It doesn't matter. I don't need to know those things, right? So people use these tactics where they're more knowledgeable in a certain field or a certain area of study, and they use all this jargon to try to trip you up. But what we're talking about is actually quite simple. How does something come from nothing, or how does something just always exist? Do we have eternal, infinite answers into the past that resort to, an infinite series of the same thing? This created that created this created, and it just never stops? No, that doesn't make sense. There has to be an original point. So that's really all we're debating here. Did God create the universe, or did the universe just spring into existence? We did kind of push over some fine tuning aspects. We didn't talk about math or consciousness really. Yeah, maybe at the end, towards the end, I don't know if I can ask TJ a question. Why do you think math exists, or how do you think math exists?
Math is a language invented by humans to describe the fundamental nature of reality.
Math was never invented. It was discovered.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
The language of math. Stanford
Not the
Encyclopedia-
language, math itself.
Math, there is no math itself. Math is, if you just go to Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, classical logic, first sentence, math and logic are formal languages with a system of semantics. The first, everyone knows this.
Doesn't matter. Back in the snow, in say caveman days, if you have one apple and then you take another apple, do you have two apples?
Yes.
And that would be true even if no one was there to understand that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so math exists regardless of our ability to identify it.
Right. So if I said dinosaurs existed before humans, is that sentence
don't
pivot?
Why just
isn't a pivot?
Well, I mean, I just want to agree, like for us to agree with something without it being so conflictive, so we can move on to the juicier parts. So if I say to you, do you think math was discovered or invented? You say, no, it was invented. Then I basically prove how it was discovered. Now you're just pivoting on to a different point. You'd appreciate that math was discovered. It was never invented by humans.
So
it's discovered
my question
by humans.
right there is, it proves
if an alien
wrong.
race got that or uses the same math that we have, even music, we don't invent this, we discover the skills.
So the reason I asked that question was because it disproves everything you just said. It says, like, your argument was that because math is true before we discovered it, therefore math must not be invented. But guess what? English sentences, like the sentence "dinosaurs existed before humans," that sentence
did math exist
true.
in the dinosaur ages?
Wait.
When dinosaurs?
Stop.
Did math exist before life existed?
The sentence "dinosaurs existed before humans" is true even before humans existed to discover that sentence, right? The sentence didn't exist until the 17th century.
Sometimes.
How are you? I'm trying to explain this.
I don't care about this stupid. What you're doing a Vosh argument right now. Well, technically, no, water doesn't even really. We don't even know what water is because in Mexico they call it agua.
No.
That's essentially what you're doing, dude.
No. Oh,
two dinosaurs.
God.
We're two dinosaurs, regardless if there was anybody there. What
Idiots.
silly point are you trying to prove that you think I don't understand?
The fact that
Like,
we
seriously,
made
what point do you think?
1 and 1 in the
Everybody
16th century.
You're looking so far below everybody right now. It's annoying. We all know humans make up numbers. We all know people make up languages. What we're arguing is whether or not math existed before we invented a language for it. And the answer is yes. So just shut the fuck up and agree.
No, you fucking moron. The fact that we make up sentences.
Because you can't. Look, you cannot agree on anything.
Shut up,
you cannot agree on anything.
The language of math was invented, just like the language of English was invented. And we can use those to describe facts of reality. And the facts of reality are true. The math is a language to describe those things. You're a dumbass. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
We all
Logical Logic.
Before you respond,
dumbass.
I'm down to finish the questions, Amy, but I don't want to pursue this guy anymore.
And there's
I really
only
want to talk to him.
Well, I just want to say I send love to both our interlocutors. There's only 2 more left. I will let you have a period if you don't have a question mark on it. If you want a period on that, did he? I can't tell if he froze or left while he was making a statement. Do you see that? Well, that's okay. We're going to send love to Ronny Cameron, who is in the description below. I will say there's only $5 from Stupid Horror Energy. Boundary et al. In a paper lays out how a theist can have a successful supernatural hypothesis. Thank you so very much. More spice from Stupid Horror Energy, sending so much love. She gives love to us. We give it love back. But this is the last question of the night, folks. And it's going to be a 1.5 because I want him to feel like he's getting his money's worth. He's bringing the spice from the Christian metalhead. Says TJump owes me $10. Unsatisfactory answer. And we'll even go back. For $10 from the Christian metalhead, he asked what would allow the necessary nature of the universe to actualize other objects into reality rather than just simply be without conscious intent, including the property
I remember the question. So I gave a formal answer. The answer I gave was Graham Oppy's answer, a professional academic philosopher. This is agreed upon by all of the theists. Read this like, yes, that's a possible answer, where the quantum fluctuations in its nature can create these things. Its nature, without a consciousness, can cause a shift in reality to produce new stuff, just like God's Sky Daddy can. In fact, it's more plausible than God's Sky Daddy making a decision, because we have no evidence decisions can exist as a fundamental part of a nature. We do know that quantum fluctuations can. So this is a formal answer by academic professional philosophers. You're done.
Woohoo!
I actually had a question on my end for him, but Slumdog Millionaire super chatted, is God all good? If God is good, but also allows evil, then wouldn't a non-motivated eternal being be more likely to allow evil than an all-good God? And that makes sense. But he bailed, so you can't answer the question now.
That is okay. I do want to thank both of our debaters. In fact, I would like to thank all of you out there for joining us on Modern Day Debate. We are a neutral platform welcoming everybody from all walks of life. Please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe if you enjoyed tonight's debate on Did God Create the Universe? With our debaters TJump and Ronny Cameron here to help us find that answer. Plus, if you like what any of our guests had to say tonight, all of their links are in the description below. Plus, if you're looking for even more fun after the show, feel free to check out our MDD Discord. Plus, there's an after show. More love out there to LPP. And with that, I am Amy Newman with Modern Day Debate. We hope you continue having great conversations, discussions, and debates. Good night. Mwah.